Hello and good morning. It's Friday, the 3rd of December 2021. My name is Steve Pugh, and if we don't know each other, basically I run a business course called a Roadmap Alternative MBA. Well, it's actually called a Roadmap MBA, but that's what it is. Basically, what we have is the kind of textbook, which is now 252 pages. And what we do is we walk you through start to finish all these steps to grow a business or your career. I'm really I'd never seen anyone do that before, to really take the best techniques from around the world for sales strategy, marketing and management, and really kind of bring it all together, make it simple, make it accessible. And our mission is, again, making business education accessible, both in terms of price, but also the way that we communicate information in terms of written text. We do videos, we do podcasts, we do live streams, we do Zoom kind of classroom sessions, and lots of kind of different stuff. But the whole point is trying to make it as easy as possible for you to either grow your business or in your own career, learn the skills that really help you reach that next kind of level. So relating to a post which I posted earlier on, actually it was last night, basically in business there are no quick wins, there are no cheat sheets, there are no kind of ways to hack the kind of system. It is hard work, but actually if you've got a clear kind of roadmap to follow and a path to follow to kind of do that, hopefully it kind of helps. So one of the things that I like to do every Friday morning at 9 a.m. is do a bit of a live kind of classroom session, a live kind of broadcast, which is kind of what this is, where basically I go through different topics that we've kind of have either come up through the week or people have asked. Anyone can actually, just throw that down, can ask questions through the week at questions@roadmapmba.com, or any of the social media channels, or in any of the stuff that we kind of do is fine. What I also tend to do is also talk about stuff that I've kind of done this week, because for anyone who is trying to grow their own business or whichever, it is a lot more difficult than a lot of people think. So basically one of the things that we really try and do is just share some of the little wins, share some of the other things that might be of interest to you. Because again, as someone who is growing my own business, and you'll see me do this every week, you'll see the progress and the steps and the consistency and stuff that actually helps communicate how, when I'm hopefully trying to teach you how to do a lot of this stuff, it might kind of help. So this week I had an offshore wind conference, which was called Offshore Wind Northeast, which was yesterday and the day before. And what you had there was a lot of the supply chain for the offshore energy kind of sector across the UK. It was in Sunderland, here in the northeast of England, and you had talks from big land developers and owners and project people and supply chain. And basically it's how to raise awareness on initiatives and things that you can kind of really get involved with. But that was really cool. But likewise, it was really good to kind of see people in person again. It's kind of been a while with COVID, but it's just really kind of good to kind of catch up. This week I also signed off a few new projects, which are quite cool. One is a new website build, which I'm having done, which is something that I knew exactly the particular type of thing that I wanted. So there was one person that I kind of had in mind with that, which is quite cool. I took delivery on Thursday of basically the roadmap version 2. Actually, was it Thursday? It might have been Friday. I'm basically just starting to send those out to people now. Is quite cool, because hopefully whenever you build a product or you kind of get into doing whatever you do, there's always a point where it kind of goes public. But then what I've quite enjoyed over the past kind of 9-10 months is actually being able to iterate, learn, evolve, and then actually version 2 is in theory what I always wanted to launch. It's almost the best version of what I've done. But then likewise, it's all the feedback from all the classroom sessions and different people and different learnings, and all likewise some new stuff that had kind of come up through the year. And it's really great to kind of see that and get feedback from people who are basically around the world on their own journey, doing their own thing. And it's just great to kind of have the feedback, and the live Q&A is a way to kind of get involved, so that you could be anywhere in the world. You could be in Nigeria, and I spoke to a chap from Nigeria this morning, China, Latvia, Ukraine, USA, Australia, anywhere. You can send a message if you write in the chat. So this is on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch, you name it, YouTube. It should come up on the screen over here. And basically then it's a great way for us to interact. And I'm sure Matthew Ward will ask me some questions, as he kind of promised he would yesterday. But the whole point is that you can ask me questions about anything that you want. And basically, if I can, I'll answer them live now, or if not, I'll come back next week if it's a more kind of detailed kind of answer. So what I'm going to do this week is I tend to pick some kind of interesting topics which hopefully are of use. These all get clipped up and they kind of go onto YouTube, basically because I have a YouTube channel, which is a reason for why I kind of do that. Basically, YouTube is the world's second biggest search engine after Google, but both owned by Google. And what it means is that, you know, your profile and the stuff that you talk about, when you're trying to build your profile and your personal brand in an industry, the more you can be seen as an authority or an expert on a topic, it all kind of helps drive sales and help you, you know, achieve your aims for the business. So actually having a YouTube channel is a way to capture all of this content that I create every week. It just kind of works. And I clip it all up. They all go into separate kind of videos, which then, yeah, get shared online forever. And touch someone, it's going quite well. But in terms of the three things I'm going to talk about today, one is actually with YouTube. I learned quite recently where I was going wrong. And this is actually quite funny just because actually I want to share the lessons. So if you ever decide to launch your own YouTube channel, I just want to talk about that, which I thought would be quite interesting. With the launch of version 2, I wanted to almost talk about how and why user feedback is so important. It's one of the big things that I've kind of worked on and I work really hard on. But actually, I think it's true for any business. The more you can get feedback off different people about different things, ask questions, it's priceless. It's really kind of valuable. But the first one I'm actually going to start on is actually how do I grow my business without external finance? And I think for a lot of people, this is a really interesting topic because a lot of people do want to start their own business. A lot of people do also want to bring in external finance to pay for everything because it's expensive. But actually, where do you start and that kind of thing? It's not an easy one to solve. So I'm going to kind of write on the board, go through some questions. But if you've got any questions or comments, please comment and they should pop up on the screen as well. So as a basic kind of question, how do I fund my business? So anyone that's kind of followed this stream for a while kind of knows that there's two main kind of elements to it. One is the consultancy, and that's something I've done since I first set up. So that is a traditional kind of freelancer model where people hire me for my time and I do stuff and I kind of get paid for it. What I'm going to talk about today is almost a roadmap angle, because actually what this is more relevant or more, yeah, I guess more relevant to what I class as a proper business that has upfront costs, where actually when you work for yourself and you do consultancy or copywriting or marketing or whichever, PR, actually with just a laptop you can kind of, that's it. So actually there aren't the same challenges that you have when you make a physical product. So what I'm going to talk about now is the roadmap MBA, but it could be true if you make pens or specialist baby cots or cars or whichever. So the first thing to look at in terms of, you know, when you're looking to grow a business and do you bring in external finance, that kind of thing, is for one, why? Why do you need it? Whenever you take out a loan or whichever, obviously there's interest repayments, there's a lot of strings that come with it that actually, you know, if you don't really need the money, although it might take you longer to do, it'll be cheaper because you won't have debt repayments, but likewise it takes some of the pressure off. And one of the decisions that I decided to make was that, yes, I had some savings that I kind of wanted to reinvest, but actually a lot of people also go out to get third-party kind of finance. It could be a venture capital firm, it could be on the stock market, it could be lots of different ways that you can do it. But often when you do that, you actually end up giving up some form of kind of control or impact or equity in the business that I didn't want to do. So the way that I do it, I what's called bootstrap it. So I really kind of take my time, but I basically earn money from other people doing consultancy and doing that kind of thing, and basically reinvest that back in. And what that allows me to do is over time build a business that I can actually start to accelerate and grow, but without losing control, without having any debt repayments or that kind of thing. And again, the more successful I can make the consultancy and the more cash I can generate, the more I can actually invest that back in to grow a bigger, better, faster kind of business. So what I'm going to do is kind of draw this out for you. I'm going to get my black pen. And just if you've got any questions, please feel free to kind of reach out and actually just ask. And I'm always kind of happy to help. So what we have there on the axes is basically time and money. What I'm going to do is simplify this. The time scale will vary for everyone's different business, but actually it's really interesting to kind of, you know where you sit, I guess, and just, you know, hopefully when I verbally talk through this, hopefully it'll make sense. But if you've got any questions, kind of let me know. So the first one, actually, when you first set up, there's always a point where you start with a certain amount of cash. And basically that amount of cash will go down until the point where you're earning more than you're making. Does that make sense? So what will often happen with most businesses is that you start with savings, and actually even if you do raise external finance, this is still true. So you start with a certain amount of cash, then over time it goes down because you'll actually have overheads and costs and that kind of thing. And the hope is that your revenue can overtake that. So actually over time, your cash can go back up again. And as long as you get past the kind of break-even point, that should be able to keep going forever to really create a successful long-term business. It's not as easy as that, but that's just something I wanted to kind of talk about. In terms of kind of overhead and things that are really important to kind of consider, basically, if you work for yourself, or even if you don't and you have a factory or a coffee shop or a facility, you have overheads, which are basically kind of fixed, or at least for this example, I'm going to say fixed. And what's really important when you're kind of bootstrapping it and doing it how I do, is that if that is a certain amount of cost per month, when you first kind of set up, there's always a balance of your income will, it takes a while to actually start generating cash and actually starting to get money into the business. So at the start, you probably have very little income, and that's why your cash balance is going down, which is true. And that is just kind of get used to that. I think for anyone, you want at least 6 months worth of cash in the bank to see you from first starting up to actually hopefully being able to wash your face and actually break even, if that makes sense. The more you have, the better. When I first set up, I actually had 24 months. So I had 2 years worth of cash in the bank to kind of see me through that process. Luckily, I was able to, well, actually, I've just turned 2 years, but I was able to kind of do it quicker and actually reinvest the money. But the point is, it's really kind of getting to that point. And then over time, as you start to get customers and stuff, in terms of your revenue or your income, it should go up. And what's really interesting in the way that I choose to run the business is that, yes, actually, I got a quick win at the start, and most people actually do. So when you first start your business, you'll probably actually get one project or a quick win, which will almost help you get started, find a bit more confidence, and really kind of get going on what you're doing. But then actually, when you kind of evolve your offer and learn from different customers and grow, a lot of people do say that you'll get your first customer really quickly, but the second one might take a little bit longer. But then after that, it should really take off, and it's just being able to kind of live through that process. But what's really interesting, just in terms of external finance, for me, what I did was I used my own kind of savings to kind of give me the buffer to get to the break-even point before I went off. Some people actually borrow money from other people, and then what that'll probably do is give you a bigger cash amount at the start to be able to grow the business, but actually you give up more stuff in kind of return. And then where I kind of am now, which is quite cool, is that when you start a business, you often have some big upfront costs. So that could be your branding, buying a building, it could be buying machinery, it could be staff and labor costs, I guess, but that's, kind of more of a fixed cost. But the point is, a lot of businesses have really big upfront costs at the start. But for instance, if you spend £20,000 on a website, next year, you don't have to spend the same money on the same website. So what's quite interesting is that if you can almost survive to the break-even point, so actually get to the point where you start with that amount of money, you've got a lot of costs, so your cash is going down, but actually you're starting to get customers, you're starting to get revenue. So that's the blue. So you're starting to get customers. The trick is just getting to the point where actually you break even and you survive, which is here. Where I think this is now quite interesting is where kind of I am with the business, is that because I won't have right now, but I will have this tax year paid off all of the kind of expensive stuff that kind of comes at the start, which is brand, studio, websites, that kind of thing. Basically, I don't have to do that next year. So say if that costs £50,000 in my first kind of year, next year in year 2, I actually don't have to spend that same money on the same stuff because I already I've invested in assets which I can then use again and again on different kind of stuff. So one of the things that I think is then quite interesting is that all that same money is, providing my revenue stays the same, it gives me the potential to reinvest more in marketing, PR, advertising, user experiences, products, launching new products, that kind of thing. That actually, if you can afford, when you bootstrap a business, to get to the break-even point, excuse me, providing you can keep going, you should actually be able to accelerate the business a lot quicker because you have much lower overheads. And I think one of the things that's really interesting to kind of talk about is that for any business, doesn't matter who you are and what you do, the lower you can keep your overhead, which for me is what I pay myself, which actually at the moment isn't much because I'm trying to build and reinvest back in. But I do pay for this office. I have various subscriptions for Adobe and Restream and different things that I kind of pay. But for any business, the lower you can keep the overhead, both the longer that gives you to survive with the cash that you have when you start before you need to break even, but also the more profitable your business will be forever. And because of the difference between the money that you earn and what you spend, that is all stuff that you can accelerate. And basically the bigger the difference between the two, and I think overheads is actually the main kind of driver, the more you can invest back in and the faster you can accelerate. So I'm actually quite excited for the next kind of year, 2 years, because with the roadmap, I've now done the hard bit. The hardest bit is actually that for any business, it's getting to break even, it's covering all the big costs, getting proof of concept, getting the studio set up and almost the idea out there with people, that actually it's then how you go through the turning point to really kind of take it to the next level and keep accelerating it. But I just wanted to talk about how I fund the business myself. Basically, I work really hard and get paid to do stuff by other people. I keep my overheads low, so I don't really kind of pay myself, and I'm trying to be quite modest. And then I just keep reinvesting back in. That timeline will take longer if you do it yourself. So basically, this for someone with external finance could be a year, could be 2 years, but that same business model, if you fund it yourself, could easily be double that. But you retain control, you retain equity, you don't have the debt repayments, and it's a different way to do it. That if you can, personally, I would recommend it just because it's what I choose to do. But actually, I just thought it was interesting to kind of talk about. And if you've got any comments or questions or anything, please comment and it will show up on the screen. And I'd love to kind of interact and stuff as well. There we go. So we're on 9:16. One of my friends pointed out last week, I think I did my last week's live stream with Costa Coffee, and actually we talk about product placement. So actually in Freelancer Magazine is something I'm going to start advertising in for 2022 with Sophie and Angela and the team. Really kind of great initiative, but it was that kind of jokey product placement of actually starting to use stuff, and luckily with the black and white, it's actually on brand as well, which is quite kind of cool. So I'd love to know if you're watching this, whereabouts in the world are you watching? I'd love to, hear and almost, find out where the kind of the community is and what we're looking to do. And likewise, what wins have you had this week? I mentioned at the start about some of the stuff that I've kind of done this week, but likewise, what have you been up to? What successes have you had this week? What challenges have you had this week? I'd love to kind of know and hopefully, answer or help in any way I can. Okay, next. So one of the most important things that I think any business needs to do, and I mean this by any business, doesn't matter how big you are, how well established you are, how new you are, is get user feedback. One of the hardest things is to get first proof of concept. It's your minimum viable product. It's the first thing that you almost take to market to show people. But then get feedback, find out what works, what doesn't work, what could be improved. Because actually your ability to ask and answer that question is actually what's going to make you successful or not. Too many people want to launch a product. Again, it could be pens, it could be offshore energy clamps, it could be space rockets, it could be whatever. And often the entrepreneur or the person has an idea and they want to push it and they actually want to just, get people to buy it. But actually one of the best sales techniques you can ever actually do is asking for feedback. And this again came up at the Offshore Energy Show this week. But the more you can actually ask people for feedback, what do you think about this? Does this fit your needs? Could it be improved in any way? Really helps you improve and iterate your product. Because actually the one thing, I was going to use Coca-Cola, but I think theirs has actually stayed very similar over time. But the whole point is when markets change and things change over time, classic kind of Blockbuster or Kodak example where, yeah, for a long, long time, people were really happy with video rentals. But actually, the more you speak to the customer and the more you understand the customer, user experience, ease of use, cost, flexibility, all of the different things, you only kind of really learn through figuring out and listening to the customer to actually figure out what they actually need. And almost one of it's the number one thing that any business should do, is ask customers, what do you think, what works, what doesn't work, what can I improve, how do we compare against competitors? If you can get that right, it'll make a huge difference to your business and the success of your business through actually asking the question. One of the great sales techniques, again, if you work in sales, is not to just push stuff on other people, but actually just to ask the question, would you consider us for this product or service? How does it compare? What do you buy on? Is it price? Is it quality? Is it turnaround time? Is it speed? Whichever. And actually just one of those things is really important. But it doesn't matter no matter what your product is. Good morning, Jonathan. Again, so Jonathan, if you are in the market for high-end installations for AV systems or TVs or electronics or whatever for your home, asking, okay, what are the buying drivers? What's important to you? Is it disruption? Is it speed? Is it being able to do it quickly? Is it being able to do it on weekends, whichever? And just in using Jonathan's example, because that's what Jonathan kind of does, he could build his entire business model that instead of charging £50 an hour to do it through the week, he could charge 80, but he does it on weekends very discreetly with minimum disruption, etc. But actually asking the feedback about customers and what they kind of want and need makes a huge difference to how your profit margin could quadruple through being able to solve the problem better than anyone else. Does that make sense? And it's almost something I wanted to mention. I think not enough people ask for regular consumer feedback on what's in the market, what works, what doesn't work, and actually how you can use that to improve your kind of business. So hopefully that's useful. If you catch this on YouTube, please kind of like and subscribe. But if you've got any questions, please drop them in the comments and I'll definitely kind of respond as quick as I can. I'm just going to go to Jonathan. Good morning, Steve. No, not on the website day. Yeah, Jonathan, that's a prime example. And actually, I've started to do this. For anyone that can't read the comments, basically Jonathan has said that he wants to start a YouTube channel to actually start reviewing products. I've done exactly the same because I love tech, I love cameras, I love lighting, I love a lot of that kind of thing. So on two levels, one, it drives more interest to your channel, because a lot of people, including me, will watch that kind of thing. But then hopefully people might start to send you free stuff, which is the other kind of benefit. But especially if it relates to what you do, again, it's all about credibility and trust on different things. So I think that's a very smart thing to do. And then likewise, Jonathan, it's linking it so that whenever you do videos or stuff or the channel, make sure it's a little bit branded. You don't want to go too much. But likewise, it's having a little bit of flavor so that the longer term benefit through being on what is the world's second largest kind of search engine will actually help and link back to your business. And then some of the other tips that I kind of looked at as well. It's just within your kind of, I guess there's text that can be default with every video that you post. Just put hyperlinks back to your business, explain what it is and your key kind of sales messages. And hopefully that might be useful for you. But no, I appreciate the comments. And Simon, good morning. I must admit, it's always quite daunting that we're on 23 minutes into the stream when nobody comments. I'm essentially just talking in a room to a camera, but it's really good when people kind of get involved, and especially with some of the kind of regulars. And then one of the things that, again, I've been up to this week is the more I speak to and get to meet different people who do different stuff, starting to get the word out about the roadmap and what we're trying to do, and actually genuinely with the mission to make business education accessible. It's trying to make it in a way that people even know it exists, and that's often the biggest challenge for a lot of businesses, is kind of just awareness so that people know that there's something out there that they can buy. And when we talk about marketing, that's the very highest level of the marketing kind of sales funnel. And actually you don't achieve that if you don't actually create stuff and do live streams and podcasts and social media and whatever to actually kind of really help get your word out there. But I really appreciate the comments and stuff as well. And Jonathan, hopefully that was a little plug for your business as well, which is quite cool. I'm going to jump last but not least onto so with YouTube, what's been really interesting, and this is interesting because actually I've been doing YouTube I say on and off, and actually by doing YouTube, I mean I've been doing video for 10 years, quite a long time. I had a YouTube channel, which I was just using to save stuff to. I wasn't really actively making stuff every week. I wasn't really kind of building it in the way that people do now. And likewise, before when I started, there wasn't such a thing as being a YouTuber. And actually that means different things to different people. But one of the really interesting things, which has genuinely kind of come up, and the more I've kind of done it, as of right now, with this live stream, it'll be 679 videos, I believe, which I've put onto YouTube. And again, there's so much competition, there's so much stuff up there. You actually really need to look at how do you stand out? How do you get people to find your channel? And actually, how do you make it relevant? And there was just one particular learning that I've really learned recently that I wanted to kind of share, which I'm going to talk about today. But the other one, well, I guess there's two. First one is consistency. So every week now, I know I've had a little break from the podcast interviews, but my plan is to do one a week, one every kind of 2 weeks. But actually just doing them, say every 2 weeks and regularly doing it, it will really help just tell the algorithm that I'm there and I'm posting and I'm regular, and anyone that follows the channel will see regular stuff kind of going up. What I also try to do with that is actually clip up the all of the best bits of the different stuff that people kind of talk about and put that up in separate videos. And I did also try basically staggering them. So on YouTube you can schedule when you post a video. So after this I'm going to clip this up and it might be 3 or 4 separate videos which go up. But you can set it so they don't go live at the same time. You can have one today, one tomorrow, one the next day, etc. And what I always try and do is stagger it. But it doesn't work, because one of the things that I've really kind of found is that the biggest thing to look at with any kind of YouTube post is actually the algorithm only treats each video by itself, if that makes sense. So what you're looking to do is basically you want to look at your thumbnails, and basically it's called a click-through rate. So was it laziness? Maybe because I'm just kind of busy. With any video, when you actually kind of upload to, I'm going to use YouTube in this example, but it's true with LinkedIn and stuff. Basically, if you upload a video to LinkedIn, it will automatically create a thumbnail based on it just grabs a frame from the video, and that's what it shows people before they actually click on it to play it. On YouTube, you actually get to pick, so it picks 3 automatic ones. So from when I upload this, or the live stream stays kind of live, people will see 3 randomly generated kind of screen grabs from the stuff. So for when I was doing my interviews, the hope was that obviously it's me and the guest, because that's what the clip is all about. And actually that in itself, with the title of the video, was the most important thing. But I've really realized that actually one of the most important things is your thumbnail. And I know a lot of people say this a lot, and I've seen other people talk about it as well. Because essentially what you're looking to do is YouTube looks at what's called a click-through rate. So basically that is for the number of impressions and the number of people that see your video. So it will show your video in the feed as you scroll through to other people. And basically what you're aiming for is actually 10% if you can. So it's called a click-through rate. And basically with that, if being completely honest, the way that I was doing it, my click-through rate was crap. It was kind of like 1 to 3%, and that's not good enough. Basically what YouTube is looking for is 10%. So if it shows your thumbnail and your video in theory to 100 people, if more than 10% of the people actually click on it to watch it, it really accelerates it and pushes it forward. And the big mistake that I was making, and actually it's true when you look at consumer behavior, when I'm scrolling through YouTube, I often actually do look at the thumbnails as the main thing to get my attention. Then I might read the caption, then I might choose to click on it. And the biggest thing that I was doing is that I was probably getting 1 to 3% kind of click through rate, so I was well off 10%. And the reason is I wasn't making it obvious enough what the video was kind of about, and then hoping that my target audience actually relate to it. Does that make sense? So the big figure of 10%. If you do a video as Jonathan with his camera reviews, and I've started to do tech reviews, create a thumbnail that basically just screams from the rooftops. This review is about the Canon EOS RP digital SLR camera and why it's terrible. The point is actually, and this is also quite true, the way that I'd approached YouTube previously was actually with factually descriptive captions about what the video was about. Rightly or wrongly, what people actually want is almost like a clickbait type caption, so that people click on it to find out what it is. And there's a fine distinction there, but when you have a business education related product like I do, it's all about trust, and you want to say what it is for people to search for it. And I think this is where the problem comes from, is that if you are a YouTuber, it could be Mr. Beast, it could be Logan Paul, it could be whatever you think, they have an audience that like them and just want to be entertained, and actually they'll click through because look at the new house I bought for £10 million, or the Mr. Beast one, we created Squid Games for £3.5 million. I wanted to watch it, so I clicked on it. So almost because I wanted to see what the video was about, they get really good click-through rates because they make it interesting, they make you want to click, which then helps them get more profile, more push, more stuff. The mistake I was making, but I'm still not sure if I want to change, is actually to give factually accurate kind of descriptions about what the videos and stuff are, that probably just say what it is, but it doesn't make people want to click on it and click through. And basically because of that, people would scroll past. My click-through rate is lower and it didn't really accelerate. So again, one of the things that I've tried to do, and doing it through the kind of tech reviews, is actually just providing more value and talking about more stuff that other people might be interested in, that then hopefully will drive the channel and stuff. And people might ask, well, why do I bother kind of doing all of this anyway? It really works great for driving interest in the business, for building your own kind of personal brand and authority. Rightly or wrongly, every time I do this, it's public speaking practice, that I know where I want to be in 10 years' time. Then actually putting yourself on stage once a week, every week, regardless, and talking and practicing and getting better will help me get better as a person. So it's almost a way for me to get my kind of 10,000 hours of stuff. And then last but not least, for the ambitions that I want to do, you have people like Gary Vee and others who've built amazing global businesses off the back of YouTube type stuff. That basically, yeah, I would love to get a part of that and love to really build the profile of the roadmap. That again, it's not for now, it's 4, 5 to 10 years down the line. That when you have potential customers, consumers that could potentially buy your product, they might not be ready now, but they might be on YouTube and they might follow some of your stuff, and they might be ready in a few years' time. So it's that longer term play, that LinkedIn is my main kind of platform, and live stream is a great way to nudge people and kind of pop up on people's kind of radar. But just in terms of YouTube and sharing some of the lessons that I've learned and I need to get better at, I just wanted to kind of share. So hopefully you find that useful. But if you've got any questions, comments, anything, please comment below. And then likewise, if you want to learn more about business, entrepreneurship, careers, that kind of thing as well, that's what this kind of channel is all about. So I'd love it if you kind of follow us or check out some of the Roadmap MBA type stuff. So we're on 9:33. I must admit it's been a pretty tough, long week this week. Again, it was really, really good to be at the conference, and I've missed seeing people. It's so funny that you go, I used to do that, not once a week, but a lot, and really kind of build relationships with different people. And you don't realize what you miss, and actually just going out and seeing people again, face to face, in person. People always joke about how you can never tell how tall people are on Zoom, which is quite cool. But I think just in terms of building relationships and stuff, even if it's only once a year or twice a year, I think it's super, super valuable just to kind of do that and get to catch up with people and ask how they are and that kind of thing, which is quite cool. And then, yeah, with some of the other projects, one other thing which I will talk about, and it's purely because I love to share my honest journey about what I'm trying to do with the roadmap. With version 2, again, I'm a chartered mechanical engineer. People hire me as a management consultant to help grow and turn around their businesses. That's what my day job kind of is. I love doing this. But then when I do my kind of the graphic design for the different versions of the textbook and that kind of thing, I'm still finding my feet every day. And one of the big things, which is a step up at the moment, is that I recently got 1,000 copies of the roadmap kind of printed. And with that step up to the next level, that's almost the like professional grade. It's a different type of printing, so it's called litho printing. But almost it's then learning the lessons which I guess people learn as they go through their careers in different disciplines. But for me, in terms of graphic design, this will sound really stupid, but I'll really resonate with some people. The blacks in the reproduction of my book weren't as good as I kind of wanted them to be. So it was only last night I really looked at actually how to create CMYK rich blacks in terms of my future textbooks and stuff. And even with some of the imagery, convert things to CMYK as opposed to RGB. Although it sounds meaningless, that'll be complete code to some people. In terms of when you're trying to develop a product and stuff and build it over time, the details really kind of matter about what you're looking to do and just trying to get things better. And I learned this last night. It was just one of those things that happens over time. And again, but it's on these hundreds of tiny little improvements add up over time. Anyway, I just wanted to kind of share just in case anyone else kind of interested. So on 9:35, I'm going to call it quits. Have a wonderful week, everyone. Really appreciate the time and support. For anyone that gets the roadmap pack in the post, hopefully you enjoy it. And then, yeah, I will speak to you soon. Classroom sessions start again next week, so it'd be great if anyone can join us as well. I can tell it's going to be one of those days. So thank you for your time again. Have a wonderful kind of Friday, and I'll speak to you soon. All right, cheers, guys. Thank you. Bye.